Hello, nerds, nerds for humanity. I have an amazing panel that I'm super excited about. We have managed to get a bunch of supporters of different presidential candidates to come into one live stream, and we'll talk about, hey, how did you come to support whoever it is you're supporting? I'm kind of curious, like, who people's second choice is as well. And we'll just make this like a hopefully useful dialogue for everybody. And it'll go for about an hour. And we are going to try and model very cordial, constructive conversation where we can disagree, but still be agreeable. And it's going to be awesome. So thanks everybody for joining. I think the first question I'm going to ask each of you individually is a little bit of an introduction to yourself, where you're joining from, and then who you're supporting, and then we'll go into how you got there in a follow-up question, but we'll do like a quick round of intros. And I'll start. I'm the moderator. I'm not going to advocate for any candidate. I'm Tom, coming to you from Northern California, and excited to host this conversation. Nick, why don't you go next?
Sure. My name is Nick. I'm in Northern California. I'm a digital coordinator for Lars Mapstead, the Lars Mapstead campaign, and that's who I'm supporting for president. I found the Libertarian Party to be a strong alternative, and I just really want to see them succeed.
Thanks, Nick. Clinton?
Yes, hi. So I'm from California as well, Northern California. Just your typical blue-collar worker, born and raised in California, voted Democrat my whole life. Bill Clinton, Obama, yes, we can. I didn't participate in 2016. And I'll get into it more later, but long story short, typical Democrat in California. That would sum up my history.
Love it. We'll definitely want to kind of talk about how you arrived at your candidate choice, but we'll get to that in the next question. Philip, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Philip. I'm living in New York, and I'm a big supporter of President Biden. I'm not part of the campaign, but someone who really thinks he's done a lot of great stuff and excited to talk about that.
Right on. Bess?
Hi, my name is Bess Godin. I run a small podcast called Millennial Splaining, and I am also the communications director for Christina Amira Khalil, who is the Green Party candidate for U.S. Senate in New Jersey. So I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Jill Stein is my candidate.
Thanks, Bess. Christian?
Yeah, I'm Christian Movic. I'm supporting Robert Kennedy Jr. I'm on one of our local teams to help support him. And I used to be a Democrat for many years, but ended up leaving the party for various reasons.
Got you. LB.
Hello. Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. I am LB. I live in Michigan. I've been working on the Marianne candidacy from 2020 till now. Right now, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a holistic counselor, and I'm also dabbling into the mixture of AI and the healthcare field right now as a regional manager. So I love exciting stuff.
Love it. Okay, now we're going to get into welcome to everybody. And in terms of my political background, I am a former Republican who then voted for Democrats since Obama. And I'm actually undecided. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do in November. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm going to go in a different order for how did you arrive at your candidate. And I got to start with Clinton, because I think, Clinton, you mentioned you were a Democrat, but it says Trump underneath your name.
So I was just trying to give you a sense of my history. Like I didn't, a lot changed in 2019 for me. So up until then, I'd probably have as much Trump derangement syndrome as anybody else. I mean, my view of the world was filtered through basically mainstream media, and started questioning some things. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. Once you see behind the curtain, you can't unsee it, and a lot shifted.
So what was it in 2019 that was kind of like a big pivotal moment for you?
So the big eye opener was let me back up a little bit. So during the Obama years, like I said, I bought into Yes We Can and all that stuff, right? I was against the Iraq War. I was against the Patriot Act. I was against Guantanamo Bay, and I believed all his rhetoric, right? Then he selected Hillary Clinton as his Secretary of State, and then what he actually did in terms of all those issues I cared about, that was a big eye opener. I was still would have called myself a Democrat. I didn't like the Republicans, but let's just say I wasn't as naive at that point. So coming into 19, Andrew Yang, I was big Yang gang. Watched the Joe Rogan podcast, the Sam Harris podcast, was all in. I consumed anything I could, donated so much money to Andrew Yang. And watching how the media treated him, the dishonesty, the smears, I mean, I could go on forever. That showed me what was possible. And then I had to go back in the catalog. What did they do to Bernie Sanders? What did Hillary do to Obama during the primaries? I followed that one closely, right? So I started seeing things through a different lens. Then I had to go back to the source. So I watched the Trump elevator speech. I watched the entire press conference of good people on both sides. And I started watching things directly and then watching the way the media represents it. And it was two different scripts. So I don't want to go on and on forever. I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but when you go directly to the source and then watch the way the media characterizes things, the way Democrats gaslight, it's impossible to unsee.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing, Clinton. We'll get into more nuance, I'm sure. But let's jump to Philip, the Biden supporter. What was your journey to deciding to support Biden, Philip?
Sure. So I was a big Bernie supporter in 2020. I worked really hard to try to get him to win the primary. But when Biden won the nomination, I said, okay, democracy is way too important to gamble on small policy differences. So we got to get together and elect Biden. Once Biden got into office, I think he's done some really incredible things that I'm really proud of. He's the first president to actually decrease the amount of student debt. He's done an incredible job with infrastructure, incredible job on jobs. Like the unemployment rate is at 3.7%, longest period of, I think, under 4% unemployment since like the 1960s. It's incredible. On crime, we're seeing a big decrease on that too. I just think across the board, Biden's shown he can get a lot of stuff done in a really polarized environment. I think right now we want to kind of bring our country together and get stuff done to improve people's lives. Biden's the really clear choice. I know some people are kind of worried about the age thing. I understand that concern, but I think I would encourage people to, instead of watching, 10-second TikTok clips on Twitter where Biden stutters once, let's actually watch a State of the Union address on Thursday. I think Biden showed really clearly that he is strong. He's got this. He's cognitively sharp. And I'm ready for him to run the country for the next 4 years, create more jobs, lower healthcare costs, get more housing, and protect our democracy, which is under threat by Trump.
All right. Thanks, Philip. And yeah, I kind of agree. I agree that he had a good State of the Union. He certainly exceeded my expectations, which was not super high, but yes. Let's go to Bess, the Jill Stein supporter. And yeah, tell us about your journey and how would you respond to people who are like, man, these third-party candidates are just going to hand it to Trump. I've heard that argument before.
Oh, yes. I hear that every day. Yes. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm sorry that I've been plugging things and stuff, but running a little bit last minute. I'm at my mother-in-law's house, and that's what happens when real working
All good.
people are trying to juggle, running a campaign and doing podcasts and everything. That's life, right? So anyway, yes, I'm a Jill Stein supporter. I came to the realization I have been left for a long time. I went from supporting Hillary to Bernie, actually. So I got radicalized a little bit more. And then after that, the left kind of experienced a schism. And a lot of us are sort of feeling displaced right now. So that's what made me gravitate towards the Green Party, because a lot of my friends were already involved in the Green Party. And, they care about the same things I do. They care about Medicare for all. They care about a Green New Deal. They care about ending the genocide in Palestine. So, these are the things that drew my interest. And to me, Jill is the strongest candidate as far as third parties go. I think she's going to have, ballot access in all 50 states. We're not sure if that's the case for Robert Jr., no offense. But the Libertarian candidate might actually have that as well. So I think, but again, Jill aligns mostly with my, how I believe this society should be run. And as far as, let's talk about her being a spoiler, because to me, the Democrats and Republicans are essentially the same party. They're a corporate mega party. They're owned by two warring factions of corporations. And they both support the murder of babies in Palestine. They both have been building the border wall. And I lost Roe under Biden. So I'm not really feeling the democracy here. When I hear, Democrats tell me like, oh, well, aren't you afraid for your democracy? It's been gone. It's been gone. And I'm sorry, but this is a country where only some people have ever really had access to democracy. And most of us really haven't. And so I want to speak for the people that haven't. So there we go.
Thank you, Bess. Appreciate it. You mentioned RFK Jr., so I feel like I got to go to Christian next. Christian, how is your path to RFK Jr.? And by the way, I watched the RFK Jr. video rebuttal, which was super interesting. Tell me a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so I used to be a big supporter of Biden in 2020, definitely, lockstep Democrat. Then as time went on, it just didn't feel like my party anymore the more things happened. First was Afghanistan, and Biden always said he'd tell the truth on issues, which my mistake to naively believe politicians would always tell the truth. But then after Afghanistan, I could see he wasn't telling the truth on some of those things. So then I kind of opened my mind up more and started, looking at different media outlets, because I was only watching mainstream media. And listening to different perspectives, and that really opened my mind. I kind of became more moderate, and then I saw how they lied about Kyle Rittenhouse, and I was really appalled by that. And then kind of the nail in the head was when they tried to cancel Joe Rogan, and I saw people attributing all these name-calling things to me, and just assuming a bunch of beliefs that were far right that I didn't have. And then I realized the person doing that used to be me. I used to be that tribal left type person that would just do that kind of thing, which is the complete opposite of how I was then. So that was kind of the nail on the head. I've studied the Democratic Party intensely. My values really align more with the JFK type liberal Democrat. And the more I peeked behind the curtain, as Clinton put it, the more I didn't like what I was seeing. So then I came to RFK Jr. because first I heard that he announced, and then I watched the Joe Rogan podcast. I wasn't completely sold on him at that time, but then it was actually the congressional hearing he partook in. And when I watched that was the moment I realized that's my candidate.
All right. Thanks, Christian, for sharing. LB, I've had Marianne Williamson on the show twice now. She's super, impressive for a lot of reasons. I believe that after Super Tuesday, it seems like Biden, let's just say, has a very strong lead on delegate count there. What is your path to supporting Marianne?
The path to supporting Marianne is to really allow the American voter to at least get an opportunity to hear her message, her vision, and what she's coming with. This year that her candidacy has been running, most of the American people have not been able to know that it's there because she has been, we have been victims of suppression, censorship, and smearing. And I believe that if the American people come to find out, just as I'm sorry, I don't remember your name.
Christian?
Just as Jill Stein supporter was saying,
yes.
if they get to understand that these are corporations, they think that the DNC is a governmental entity that is working fairly. But I became completely disillusioned in 2016 when I was supporting Bernie Sanders, and you got to see the way the machine really works. And the DNC was sued for this, and they said in open court that we are our own corporation. We don't have to follow our own rules. Back in the day, these decisions were made in smoke-filled rooms of men, and we could do it again that way if we wanted to. And the judge had to rule in their favor because it's true. They're a corporation. So give me a contest where the American people know how this works. Give me a contest where Biden and Trump get in the ring with Marianne and the other candidates, and then tell me how many delegates they have. That's how I feel.
Thanks, LB. I appreciate it. And I have my own reservations about how the parties make their decisions. So appreciate you sharing your journey. Nick,
Thank you.
the Libertarian, tell us. Oh, wait a minute. Did we go to you already, Nick, about your journey to supporting Lars? Not yet, right?
Not this round.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. Well, again, super honored to be on the panel with you guys. Thanks for showing up to this great show. I had been doing some work with the Forward Party all of 23, and still cooking with that, but I wanted to cut my teeth on something with a little bit more, something different. And the Libertarian Party has a long history, over 50 years in the game, politicking and, fighting the good fight as an underdog. And I really value a lot of the principles. It's a really principled party, and I think it's an example of how the two big parties, the direction that they need to head. They are private corporations, and they dominate so much of our life. They dominate all the power players. They are the power brokers, the kingmakers. And I think that, in any good market system, there's competition and many different players. And I think that we'd only be best served if that there were more parties that could contend at the national level like that. And so the Libertarian Party has a lot to show for, and I just really want to help them succeed. And so, for me, it was issues like personal autonomy and ending excessive government regulation in California. There's lots of excessive spending. You can see the bullet train that has gone nowhere. We're almost 10 billion in, and we have no bullet train to show for it. This is just one example of how it's true. I'm not like some libertarians. I'm not an anarchist, but I am a minarchist, and I think that the government should be as minimal as possible, and especially because it lacks, some sort of market correction or market forces competition.
Thanks, Nick. Spoken like a true libertarian. Appreciate that. Now let's go another kind of round of popcorn on if there's one policy that your candidate advocates that you feel the country really needs and that you're very enthusiastically supporting that candidate partly for that reason. Like, what is the policy position that really resonates with you? Let's start with Clinton. What is it that you would want to see Trump do if he were sworn in and president again?
So there's no one particular policy other than maybe the border issue that I feel the presidents are going to have much impact on, or it's not swaying me. There's a lot of policies with Trump that I actually would probably disagree on. But what I want to see him do is basically get back. I mean, it's unfortunately it's a low bar. Defend civil liberties, stop the wars, secure our border. Trump, in my opinion, is the best person to do those things, and it's not some ideological type thing. A lot of what these other people were saying resonates with me as well. So and I'll just wrap it up by saying it's basically the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Everybody else has this level of Trump derangement syndrome. If they criticize them for reasonable things, I could back up an RFK. But I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing them gaslighting the public just like the Democrats do, maybe not to the same extent. So Trump doesn't gaslight. He speaks, agree with him or not. He pretty much says what he thinks. And unfortunately, like I said, it's a low bar, but that's why I'm attaching myself to him and voting for his campaign.
Okay. Got to go to Philip, the Biden supporter. Is there a policy from Biden that you feel really, passionate about, that you're excited, that you think Biden would do a great job, in the second term?
I think there's a lot of things. There's climate change, there's student debt, there's infrastructure bill, but the biggest thing is just basic democracy. He's going to keep that going. I think there's no bigger issue than democracy, and Biden has shown he's committed to that. In 2016, Trump won. Biden was vice president. He certified that election for Trump, even though we all know he would have preferred Hillary Clinton to win. When she was on the other foot, Trump could have certified Biden's election. He did everything in his power to overturn the will of the voters, and has never conceded to this day that Biden beat him. Now, I think people have some fair concerns around the primary and wish it had been more democratic. I think those are fair concerns, but at the end of the day, primaries often have issues around them, but the general election is where we really make our stand for democracy. Biden has made that stand again and again. He's worked to pass the Voting Rights Act. He's going to continue to work to do that, give DC statehood. And I just have to stress that democracy isn't something where you just give it up for a few years, you just get it back the next time around. We lose it, it's gone. And I'm very worried about putting someone in power like Donald Trump, who has clear disdain for our democracy. That doesn't mean that Trump supporters or third-party supporters have that disdain at all. That's not what I'm saying. But Trump has expressed very clearly he does not intend to abide by the democratic processes. And he incited one coup. He was unsuccessful. Putting him in power again to give him another chance seems like a big risk. And I really respect the passion and the advocacy from all the third-party candidates and Mayor Williamson's team. I think that's great. And I really respect how hard you guys are working to change the system and to really push your policies. But at the end of the day, we see from polling data, it's about 45% Trump, Biden. And at the end of the day, one of them is going to win. And I'm going to vote for the person who will actually keep our democracy going so that you guys can continue your advocacy to do ranked choice voting across the country and actually make a system where we can have vibrant third parties that can win. But right now, in the current system, unfortunately, one of the two major parties is going to win. And you can say, I wish there would be more parties that could actually win on a national level. I understand that concern. I really do. But right now, it's Trump or it's Biden who's going to win the whole presidency. And one of them has already shown he's willing to do a coup. The other is willing to certify results that go against him. I'm voting for Biden to keep our democracy going.
Bess, I noticed you had some visual reactions to both Clinton and Philip. So maybe you go next. You could either respond to what you heard or talk about what you think Stein would do differently. Either one is fine.
Sure. First of all, I apologize. Is that beeping me? Did you hear that?
It
No,
was
my
briefly,
coffee,
but it's not.
sorry.
Okay.
Oh, Opie's coffee's ready.
Jealous. I'm
Sorry.
jealous. Want to- So I apologize for my facial expressions. This is, we hear all of these talking points often on mainstream media. And I am, you know, uh, first of all, you know, when we claim democracy, what are you telling me is democracy? Are you telling me more cop cities against anybody's against popular approval? Are you telling me bombing Palestinian babies is democracy against popular approval? Are we talking about how we don't have Medicare for all, even though that has popular approval also? This is not a democracy that we're living in now. And there are a lot of people that are disenfranchised, and we are mad, and we are done with the two-party system. And a lot of us feel like, you know, either we're going to vote for Jill Stein or we're just not going to vote, because it doesn't matter, because literally Trump and Biden have been doing the same things in office the entire time. I see no difference between them, except that Trump is really a lot better at being loud. Honestly, they're both alleged sexual assaulters. They're both again supporting this genocide in Palestine, and they're both continuing the same trickle down economic policies we've had since Reagan. There's been absolutely no difference whatsoever. And I'm sorry, if you are interested in somebody who does not gaslight, it's not going to be Trump. It's absolutely going to be somebody else in a third party. It's probably going to be Jill. I don't know too much about the Libertarian candidate, but I have a lot more respect for them, no offense, than I do for RFK Jr. So I'm here reading everybody today, and I apologize for that, because all of you fine people are lovely, but I do have my opinions about our presidential candidates. So I don't mean to be rude, but I do feel very fed up with the system that we're in, and I can't wait anymore. None of us can wait anymore. I mean, we are literally in a depression. Most of the country is in a depression, except that we have a few really rich people balancing it out so it doesn't look that way. So I'm tired of this.
May I?
Yeah.
Go off with that.
Go ahead, Nick.
Just to bridge the green and libertarian divide. It's true. We talk about democracy, but look at ballot access. The third parties have to spend their whole nut fighting for ballot access every cycle, and it's unfair. There's literally two sets of rules: one for the DNC and RNC, another for independents. So my candidate Lars Mapstead has drafted a voters' bill of rights, something that would level the playing field across the whole country as far as candidates getting on the ballot and ballot access. In New York, the Libertarians were striving for ballot access, and in the middle of their campaign, the New York raised the threshold for ballot access for signatures. And that's just a taste of the kind of anti-democratic games that are played among these power brokers. And more to the point of the divided economy. It's there's something called the Cantillon effect that happens when a whole bunch of money is introduced to our economy. All of this fresh money is printed, and the people who get the cream off the top are the banks. And then next is big corporations. So you see the stock market go through the roof. You see asset prices increasing, and so we say the economy is doing well. But working people don't own a lot of these assets, and it's actually incredibly damaging for their economic situation to have asset prices inflate. In COVID, there are people who spent 10, 15 years saving up for a down payment on a house just to be locked in their home, and then asset prices inflated out of reach, and they're back to square one again after spending all their savings.
Okay, we'll go Bess, then Philip, then LB, then Christian. Bess.
Yeah, I'm not here to do a long rebuttal. I just wanted to add in real quick that a lot of the bars to getting on the ballot for third parties and for independents is money. So that ensures that only a certain elite class of people can run for office. And I think that's wrong. I think that everyday working people should be running this country. So there we go. I just want to add that. Thank you.
Philip?
Yeah, I just want to respond to the point about Democrats and Republicans being the same. But respectfully, I think that only works if you don't look at all the policy positions that they're proposing. You look at the corporate tax rate, Trump lowered it substantially. Biden established a global minimum corporate tax rate so that big companies can't just get away with paying nothing in taxes. Look at Roe v. Wade. You said that Biden overturned under Biden, but that's not really fair because Biden's nominee to Supreme Court voted against overturning Roe v. Wade. All of Trump's 3 Supreme Court justices voted to overturn Roe v. Wade. Trump has said he wants to do a 16-week abortion ban. Biden has said clearly he will codify Roe v. Wade if you can give him a pro-choice Senate and House. I think that this idea that like they're the same just comes down to like a fundamental, not looking at the actual policies they're putting out there. Trump very clearly said he wants to overturn the Affordable Care Act. He tried multiple times. Biden has expanded the Affordable Care Act. Now 8 million more people have healthcare because Biden beat Trump in 2020, and we have the lowest uninsured rate for healthcare in American history. That's because there are differences between Trump and Biden. They're very clear, and we don't need to kind of pretend that they're the same person or that the parties aren't really different in order to make your point. They are really different on healthcare, on housing, on Roe v. Wade, on climate change, on student debt, which Biden did $168 billion of student debt relief. Trump mismanaged the public loan service forgiveness program so badly, only 7,000 people got forgiveness under that. Under Trump, Biden got 800,000 people forgiveness who went into public service. So I would just say, I respect all your views a lot, but we need to be able to say clearly what the differences are between candidates and not pretend that they're the same.
Okay, LB.
So before we ended up where we are, I would have said my top issues for Marianne were the Department of Children and Youth. She says children should have be educated in palaces of learning where we have equal education for all children. If you want to know where America is going to be in 10 years, look at how we're treating our 10-year-olds. Or I would have gone with reparations, which she has been speaking on, writing on for decades. She's not new to that issue. And I would really, really dig into those right now. But we can't afford to do that because we are on the precipice of World War III. And so when you think about where we are in this country and on this planet in terms of peace, okay, Marianne wants to institute a Department of Peace. She says that peace is a thing that is studied. She started years ago the Alliance for Peace Foundation, where you can go. She says it's a thing that you can study and you can put things in place to try to, like, I feel like there's an article online. It says, they quoted something I said, Marianne or death. That's where we are. To act as if peace is one of the issues, okay, I think it's disingenuous. When we can look and see them. I was supposed to be in Lansing, Michigan today at a peace rally, okay? But I didn't go because I wanted to be here. It's not going to be business as usual if we don't get someone at the helm in this country to start to pull this back. And it is not Biden and it is not Trump. And that is what we saw in Michigan when they did the uncommitted and they were only going for 10,000 votes. They got 100,000 votes. That is something that every presidential candidate right now needs to stop and listen to. And that's why Marianne is the ceasefire candidate. So if people start to understand that about her and start to dig into her platform and understand how important it is that we all go for peace, and Marianne is that candidate, maybe we can save our country. Maybe we can save the world.
All right, Christian, let's hear from you. You can either talk about what policy you think RFK is a strong advocate for that you agree with, or you're welcome to weigh in on any of the discussion we've just had as well.
Yeah, I'll just say really quickly that the policy positions that I agree most with RFK with is really going in and cleaning up house. I think that affect so many different areas like foreign policy and our health at home and so many different things. But yeah, I'd like to respond to the point of it's between Biden and Trump, and we don't really have really a chance to get any third-party or independent candidate in the White House. Right now, 52% of Americans say they're open to a moderate independent candidate. At the same time, 52% say they approve of RFK Jr. A lot of people talk about ballot access, but I'm honestly not too concerned about that because RFK has been consistently doubling and in some states quadrupling the amount of signatures he needs. So in Arizona, he needed about 25,000. He has almost 100,000. In New Hampshire, he got twice as many within the same day that he needed. In Georgia, he was almost 3 times the amount of signatures he needed. So it's really not too much of a concern to me for ballot access. And I really think, I mean, polling data shows if we all stopped to saying it's only between these two people, then you could actually have a path. And I think if RFK gets on the debates, which he qualifies for, the question is just if Biden will participate or not, then it's really play ball.
All right. Did everybody get to share their top policy position? I think we did. I think we couldn't.
Yeah, I had a disadvantage going first, and things came to my mind. But I kind of like to frame it as opposed to why I support Trump. I will tell you what it would take for me to support another candidate policy-wise. So I'd be all on board with RFK if he, despite some misgivings about sincerity, policy-wise, if he would have had a different reaction to October 7th and the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. He's inconsistent. I mean, I was all with him on Ukraine, a lot of his other positions, but his position on Israel-Palestine is completely inconsistent, and it's a red line for me. He could earn my vote with that, and his climate position, this climate alarmist position, he's disingenuous on that. I know he knows better, or maybe I can't say that. I don't know what he knows, but based on everything else, I would think he would know better than to take the positions he's taken. So he could earn my vote.
All right, let's let Christian respond and then get Bess's thoughts. Christian, any thoughts?
Yeah, I understand the disagreements with Gaza. The only really response I would have to that is about the climate position. RFK said on many podcasts, but the one he's spoken the most out about this, climate alarmist stuff is on Jordan Peterson's podcast. He actually went full throat against this climate alarmist agenda and said that this is only dividing us more. I went to the Kansas City rally he had, and he talked about that too. Where, talking about this climate alarmist agenda really only divides us. What we need to be talking about instead is, cleaning up our air, our water, our soil, and actually just, doing our best. I mean, RFK has a strong record as an environmental lawyer, which I think even with those on the left who, consider him this conspiracy theorist and all that, really respect him for his environmental background. So if he was a climate alarmist, I would have an issue with that as well. But, just hearing him talk about those things, that really dissolves my concern about that personally.
Okay, Bess, you raised your hand.
Yes, thank you. Firstly, let me say that if you are pro-Palestinian, do not support Trump, because Trump is not pro-Palestinian. He supports Israel, and he will continue the funding to Israel if he's elected. Both Biden and Trump are the same on this issue. I will say that, what was my other point? You told me to not pretend that both presidents are the same. I'm telling you that you're splitting hairs, and that is literally how I see it. And I'm not pretending. I'm not giving a line. This is how I see the world. Okay. And I really would appreciate if you validated my viewpoint rather than destroying it. As Democrats, not as interpersonal between you and I, Philip.
All right, Philip, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I offended you there. I didn't mean to. But no. I will say it's not splitting hairs when we're talking about whether people have the right to reproductive rights or not. Like, that's like a real thing that matters to so many people across this country. That point, not splitting hairs whether we say if insulin costs $35 or $100. Like, that's matters to real people. It matters if we have an infrastructure that's repairing our roads and bridges. It matters if we get rural broadband so people can actually get on the internet in rural communities. It matters if we get 8 million people healthcare, which we've done under Biden. Like, the splitting hairs thing, it's not splitting hairs when we're talking about real policy that affects real people, and it is really different between Trump and Biden. And I think that part of this debate is acknowledging that there are real differences and why you might prefer some differences of Trump or Biden. But let's talk about the real differences, because they are huge. On basic democracy, Biden certified Trump's election. Trump refused to certify Biden's. In 2028, let's say that Trump wins in 2024. 2028, Trump has his own VP running for office. Do we really think that Trump, with all the powers of the federal government, is going to let a Green Party candidate, RFK, a Democrat, a Libertarian candidate, Williamson, if they win the presidency in 2028, do we really think Trump's going to let them actually take office? Of course not, because Trump's going to want a pardon from his vice president who he hopes to succeed him. So it's dangerous to kind of conflate these two candidates, and it's dangerous to put someone in office like Trump, who has shown again and again he wants to destroy our democracy if it doesn't benefit him.
All right, Bess, we'll let you have one last response, and then I have a new question for all of you.
Sure, thank you. Again, these things are crumbs compared to what is needed. And it's clear that you disagree with that. But looking at the statistics, I would have to disagree with you on that. We want Medicare for all. We don't want $25 for insulin because some of us can't afford $25 for insulin, not $100. Some of us can't afford, what's the statistic? 50% of Americans can't afford a $400 emergency, a $200 emergency. That's where we're at. That's where we've been at. So we don't need an expansion to policies that aren't really covering us fully to begin with. And trust me, the copays for insulin is just the beginning of it. We're talking about copays for surgeries. We're talking about debt forever. We're talking about, do you want your government to provide what it has provided in other countries for people across the nation? This is not something that's new, and it's not something that's weird. It exists, and it exists in a working fashion, and there's no reason we can't have it in this country. Biden will not fight for that. I would also like to say, sorry, you said a bunch of things, and I was like, oh, geez.
I said Biden will codify Roe v. Wade. Trump worked to overturn it.
Yes, I would like to say that Biden had 2 years with a Democratic Congress, and he did not do that, and he absolutely should have done to begin with. I say you've had your time and you messed it up. I think that there's also things that he could be doing to push in that direction, even at this moment, and he's not doing them. And I think a lot of the promises that he's making is because he is dying in the polls and he can see it. So I don't really believe a lot of what he says anyway. So thank you for reminding me. I appreciate it, Philip.
All right. And LB, I had to temporarily mute you. We were getting a little background sound, but we're going to start with you for the next question, and I will now you're unmuted. Here's the next question. If you had to pick a second choice, if we were having like ranked choice voting, who would be your second choice? Clearly, Marianne is your first choice, but if you had a second, who would it be and why?
What a wonderful question. Because I totally became disillusioned with the Democratic Party when I saw what they did to Bernie Sanders. And I was searching for who could be a viable leader. Who? Now that you see that the DNC and the GOP, you see the game, They may not be the same on paper, but when you go to the people, they'll tell you what they feel, what they see. We've had 4 years of both. We don't want any more. And so after what they did to Bernie, I went to Jill Stein and Ajamu Baraka. So my dream would be, I don't know why it doesn't happen. I would love to see it. I would love to see Marianne Williamson and Jill Stein have a conversation, because we meet, they're not the same, but they really do represent what we, the people, need. When you talk about healthcare, when you talk about children, when you talk about peace, you talk about being concerned with the planet. As you can see, I'm most passionate about peace, because I don't think there's much discussion about a lot of other things until we make sure that we're all alive. And I believe that Jill is a champion for peace as well. And so she would be my next choice. And if we had ranked choice voting, I would be in heaven right now if the people could only know what's going on, which they don't know right now.
All right. Thank you. Christian, who would be your second choice and why?
Does it have to be someone who's still in the race, or could it be anyone who ran?
I think it should be someone who's still a candidate.
Okay.
But you could tell us what you tell us. Maybe give us two answers. Who would it be overall, and then who's that's still in it?
Sure. My second choice, I first considered DeSantis, but the more I looked into him, the more I didn't agree with his policies. I considered Vivek, but once he got on the debate stage, I didn't. He was really leaning into Trump heavy, and I didn't like that. And when he had that ad hominem against Christie, that was the moment I was just done with him. And up until a week ago, I would have had Dean Phillips as my second choice candidate. I really liked him a lot. But I guess I'd go with Chase Oliver for now.
All right. Nick, who would be your second choice and why?
That's a tough one. I like a lot of the candidates. I really like Jill Stein. If I have to, I will split the hairs for Biden. But honestly, Kennedy has a ton of energy behind him. And I really value that. I really value what the kind of the figurehead that he's providing for all of these disenfranchised voters. I feel he might be a little bit shifty and he's not super consistent. And there are some hangups, especially on nuclear energy. But I really think that it just shows how disenfranchised so many voters are from the left, from the right, and a lot of that has to do with the ballot access rules and the rules that the parties that the duopoly gets to write for themselves. So I would have to think Kennedy number 2.
Bess, your number 2 choice, and I'm going to guess it's not Biden or Trump.
You would be correct. Sorry, guys. Actually, it would be Marianne. I do like Marianne very much, and I like a lot of the things she stands for. I am not super happy with the way that she was running her campaign this time around. No offense, because she did drop out and come back in. But for on policies alone, I would think that she would probably be my next choice. And I would also like to say very quickly that if you are fed up with the duopoly and you do decide to vote an independent or third party, the two parties record that information and they make policy decisions based on that information as well. So if you vote to show that you are so fed up with both of them, they will change their ways too. So I think that's another, that's absolutely why I will no longer be voting either Republican or Democrat ever again, because I have to make my voice heard. So thank you.
Especially in California, I think you've got a unique chance to do a protest vote.
Yeah, that's right, because it's unlikely that California would have a big difference of outcomes. Clinton, you were kind of finding your way to Trump, so I'm kind of curious, who would your second choice be?
So I like Vivek as well, as far as like anybody. Actually, Vivek and RFK, those were the two candidates I was really into and following. It wasn't until all the Trump lawfare stuff started happening when I saw the way the justice system was playing out that pushed me towards Trump. And then October 7th killed it for me with obviously RFK. And on a side note, real quick with that, I can't remember the lady's name, but she's wrong. All those candidates are horrible for Palestinians. Even I don't want to say anything. Jill Stein, I might be a little off on that, but all the other candidates are horrible. And definitely the Democrat and Republican Party are both horrible on that. Ron Paul, he had it right, but he's not representing the Republicans. And so I just want to say, like, that's not going to swing me. If RFK was right on that, that could swing me, because everything else pretty much aligns, assuming he means what he says. So I would say RFK, Vivek. That's my answer. Okay.
Philip, your number 2 choice.
Yeah, I probably would choose Marianne Williamson, because I think that at its core, Marianne Williamson and Biden agree we have to take on the climate crisis. They both agree we should get rid of student debt. And I think they both are committed to our democracy. Not to say that, I think RFK, I think Lars Mapstead, Jill Stein, all committed to our democracy too. That's great. But I think I'd support Marianne Williamson because I think she and Biden align on those issues. And I think those are really important issues.
All right. So I'm going to ask the last question for this panel. By the way, you all have been terrific, just terrific. I love how everybody has their convictions, but we're still respectful to each other, and we can be passionate and still kind of keep it constructive. So amazing. I think if Twitter were like this, it would be a more pleasant place, but every platform has its own style. Let's ask the final question, which is, what's the one thing you heard on the panel today that you really disagree with? You feel like, wait a minute, like that is not how I see it at all. And that'll help the audience kind of see like the variety of perspectives. And maybe I'll start with Christian. Is there something you heard so far today that you feel like maybe, you want to advocate for a different perspective, or you want to clarify something that you think needs to be kind of explored further?
Sure. Honestly, the thing that I would have the biggest disagreement with, probably that's been discussed on this panel, would be Biden advocating for democracy. That's just mostly because of the primary process. The Democratic Party, which is lockstep with Biden, which is a violation of their charter, but they're doing it anyway. They're trying to cancel primaries. Dean Phillips won lawsuits over that. They were trying to remove candidates from the Democratic primary ballots in several states. They won some lawsuits over that as well. Opting to just not have a democratic process in the Democratic primary, I think really isn't democracy at all. Just coordinating a candidate for the party. RFK Jr.'s father ran against Lyndon Johnson, and they had a democratic process before Lyndon Johnson dropped out. But unfortunately, Biden wanted to subvert the will of the people in his own base, his own party, and decide to not have a democratic process in the primaries. And I think that's really unfortunate.
Thanks, Christian. Philip, we'll go to you next. Anything you heard so far that you feel like you want to explore further?
I think one thing that I just want to stress that I've heard about a bit is kind of this idea of like voting is it's like an identity thing. It's like who you are kind of thing. When I vote, I am saying for all the world to hear, this is exactly who I am as a person. That's not what voting is. Voting is about making sure you have the best possible candidate that can win, that is in office to do the best possible policies for you, your family, and your country. That's what voting is about. And I really want to stress that the point about Biden and Trump being the same, not true at all on basically every single policy. I want to stress that, I understand the points made about, RFK's, chances. At the end of the day, I think there are a lot of really great reforms that people have suggested about trying to move some more democratic direction with ranked choice voting, things like that. But those are long-term gains, long-term movements that we have to focus on. We can't just be doing this every 4 years, trying to get like an independent candidate to win in a long shot bid. So I would say vote for Biden. We're going to preserve our democracy. And in the next 4 years, you can focus 100% on getting ranked choice voting across all the states, increasing ballot access. And that way in 2028, with your passion, your energy, an independent candidate could actually win. But right now, it doesn't seem like that's the case. And when democracy is in the balance, I'm going to vote for the guy who's going to preserve that. Even if it's not perfect democracy, he's going to preserve it so we can continue to build on it and make it better.
Yes.
How did I know you were going to ask me next? So yes, I say that you cannot look at your vote. I agree with you, Philip, that you cannot look at your vote as I wish upon a star. You have to look on your vote as a strategic choice that you are making yourself heard. And that is why I'm strategically voting for Jill Stein, because I want whoever ends up in office to know that there are a large unvoiced number of us that are pissed off enough that we will vote for it. I want everyone to understand that we are only in a two-party system because we are allowing ourselves to be. I want everyone to understand that, you know, as much as, you know, Biden may promise every time the election comes around that we'll focus on ranked choice voting and blah, 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 that conversation goes away every time. Okay. So we need to have this conversation when people are paying attention. And I think it's very important. Does ranked choice voting exist right now? Absolutely not. And I agree with that. So I believe that if you are, you know, if you are tired of being handed, you know, basically poo-poo, if you're being tired of handed this and being told this is democracy, this will go away if you don't vote Biden, well, fine. Let's see what happens, because honestly, it's not that great. It's not that great right now. And it wasn't that great under Trump. It wasn't that great under Biden. And it wasn't that great before, too. So we really need to make a lot of changes that neither party represents. And, you know, I don't want your current version of democracy because I don't feel that it's real. I don't feel that I'm represented in that democracy. And a lot of people do not. 60% of Americans do not, because 60% of Americans do not vote, feel that they are not represented in your democracy. So there we go. Thanks very much. And
Thanks,
and I
Bess.
will say this too, that I believe Jill is the only candidate that we're talking about here that wants to end all aid to Israel, as well as have a ceasefire. And I think that's very important, that if you're at all pro-Palestinian, that we don't just say the word ceasefire and then go ahead and hand Israel billions and billions of dollars for guns and, you know, basically give them a backdoor wink to do whatever they want to. I think there's a lot of things we could be doing to stop Israel from doing this, and we're not doing them. And I think that's because everybody, Biden and Trump, all of Dems and Republicans in power are for AIPAC. So that is why Jill is one of the most vocal pro-Palestinian candidates.
LB.
7th, because Marianne is very meditative person. She'll go within. She put out an article. It said, an eye for an eye leaves everybody dead. She immediately said, ceasefire. But the main thing I want to bring up is the bringing up of saving democracy, the number of delegates, her not winning the primaries. Is, you know, Joe Biden can lay down $1 million, and he did, for campaign ads for a primary that they said wasn't legitimate and wasn't going on. Trump didn't participate in it. Biden didn't participate in it. But now suddenly when they have these numbers, they put out that they won. Well, what did you win? The contest that you didn't get in? So the democracy that I'm hearing wonderful people here, I respect all of you. The democracy that you're saying that we're saving by going for this candidate or that candidate is dead. It's dead. And this whole year of primaries should have proved that to everyone. And if you go to Marianne2024.com and you look at all of her issues, you look at the climate, you look at economic bill of rights, you look at Medicare for all, you look at reparations, you look at the Department of Peace, you look at all of that, you will see that her campaign items reflect the voice of the people that has been stifled, censored, and suppressed for a year. And Marianne says this, candidate suppression is voter suppression. The voice of the American people needs to be reflected in this process. And if it is not, there's no democracy.
Thanks, LB. Let's go to Nick.
Yeah, I have the same, gonna strike the same chord as Bass and LB, that, yeah, candidate suppression is voter suppression. And it is very clear that there's two distinct set of rules, one for the duopoly, one for everybody else. And, you know, they're very good at suppressing their own candidates within their own party, and suppressing candidates of the other parties. I mean, you look at the Senate race in California, Adam Schiff spent millions and millions and millions of dollars attacking Katie Porter, his Democratic running mate. And so he spent millions of dollars supporting the Republican in the race because he felt he had a better shot of winning. And so it's stuff like that. That really, that's a far cry from, democracy as we know it. And it's more, rigging and, king making.
Clinton, I think we haven't gotten to you yet. Is there anything that you heard today that you feel like we should, you have a different point of view, or you want to make a point of emphasis?
Yeah, it's I was gonna go with the democracy aspect. There's some things I agree with, things I disagree with as far as what different people have said. I would highlight that for all the Democrats gaslighting on democracy, they've done a lot of anti-democratic things that people have already mentioned. Bernie Sanders, I would say even on the level of Andrew Yang, like the way that they highlight certain candidates, and it's like they want you to think you have a choice, but you end up going with their selections, and they are all basically, for all intents and purposes, the same. So I wanted to talk about that, but can I also mention the Palestinian thing? This like Marianne Williamson, Dean, all these people. I'm not going to attempt to read their minds, but they're horrible on it too. This ceasefire, they wouldn't even be talking about it if it wasn't some kind of distinct. I don't know. I get a really bad taste in my mouth hearing some of the leftist point of views on it. It's a basic thing. Both parties get it wrong. It's about natural rights, them having self-determination, not being ethnically cleansed, virtue signaling about a ceasefire, and acting like you care about the Palestinians when, like, if there's a ceasefire, you're not saying anything about their self-determination, them, about the settlements, about everything that's happened previously. Marianne Williamson and Dean, when you press them on the topic, they get very uncomfortable. So the way I look at it, none of the choices are going to be good for the Palestinians. So if somebody was sincere about it, then they could potentially earn my vote on that as well. And
all right, Bess raised her hand. She might have the most pro-Palestinian candidate. I don't know, but Bess, what do you think?
Yes, I do believe that. Thank you. I was going to pop in to say that. I do have the most pro-Palestinian candidate because she does believe in divesting from Israel completely. And we are, again, a lot of people are saying the word ceasefire because we've basically on the left been forcing people to, because we have been loud and because we are sharing all of the posts that we're finding from Gaza. I myself have talked to a couple of people in Gaza earlier on during the genocide, and it has been a horrific situation that I would absolutely liken to the Holocaust. Absolutely. And I am Jewish myself, and I'm not here to spread anti-Semitism at all. I am here to say that there is a right-wing government in Israel that is committing a genocide. And there are plenty of Jews in Israel that agree with me. And I think that if you're interested to know a little bit more about that, and to know a little bit more about the things that we could do diplomatically to get Israel to stop what they're doing, you should check out Jill Stein's platform and hear her speak on it a little bit more.
The left wing's just as bad, though. They're for apartheid. The right wing's for ethnic
I'm not
cleansing.
for apartheid.
I'm saying you talked about I meant Israel. You said you kind of presented it like, oh, I'm not anti-Semitic either. It's not about religion. It's about Zionism, and all Zionists are either for apartheid or for ethnic cleansing. It's that simple.
Right, because Zionists were told that this patch of land is theirs, even though a bunch of people were living on it to begin with. So that is something that we're interested in correcting, and that is something that absolutely Jill Scott brings up as well. Jill Scott, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm not going to. I won't criticize her position. I don't know it enough, and from what little I do know, she's probably closer to where I'm at on that particular thing. So
I would
I'm not
recommend that you
casting
look further
aspersions
into
on
her
her, but
position at
I'm not
the
gonna.
show.
She's not my.
All right,
There's too many
we got.
other.
Sure.
Yeah.
Phil, you raised your hand. I knew this was going to happen. This is a complex topic, but we'll let it go over a little bit because it's an important topic. So, Phil, what did you want to add?
I'll just say that I think Biden cares a lot about Israelis and Palestinians. I think you can see this through him airdropping humanitarian aid, him trying to negotiate a ceasefire right now for 6 weeks. I think that I understand people are critical because he supports Israel's right to defend itself as well and does not support Hamas. But he does support a two-state solution, and he's talked about that very openly, that he wants a two-state solution and Palestinian self-determination as well. And so I would just like to say I think that Biden does care about both Palestinians and Israelis, and I hope that I appreciate you all having a discussion with me today.
All right, Elby, you raise your hand. Go ahead.
I'm
Elby.
sorry. I just want to say one more thing. Kim Iverson has gone over to Palestine, and others of us have. And when they go there, the children who see the bombs and the shrapnel, the ones that survive that are marked, made in USA, they go up to Americans. This is what the children know. They go, "Can you please ask America to stop doing this? Can you please ask United States of America to stop doing this?" So the children know. That's all.
Christian, go ahead.
Yeah, my final note, I just wanted to say that every 4 years we say this is the most important election of our lifetime. Polling data shows that RFK Jr. does have a very clear path. And I think once he gets ballot access in all 50 states, that'll be even more apparent. 56% of Americans say they'd be considered to moderate independent. 52% like RFK Jr. 34% already say they can see themselves voting for him. So we all need to stand up, stop saying, let's vote for the lesser of two evils, or that if you vote for this candidate, then you're really supporting the other candidate. And also stop saying that vote for my candidate or all this bad stuff's going to happen. I don't really find that as a very good pitch. And yeah, if you want to hear more about what Kenny has to say, don't believe what the media says and go to kenny24.com.
All right. Thanks to the amazing panel. I think there's 260 live viewers, and I'm sure we'll have even more on replay. So if anybody's watching this now or on replay, do all of us a favor and like and share it so more people can discover a very kind of thoughtful, diverse conversation with different points of view. And hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take care. All right. That was a Nerds for Humanity panel. We got to get some closing music. All right. So here's my takeaways. I'm going to share some takeaways. First of all, what a fun discussion. That was really fun. I haven't had that much fun on a nerd show for a while. I love all of them, but this was really cool because you don't often get a chance to talk to people who support the different candidates. Like maybe a little bit on Twitter where you're kind of arguing with people, but it was kind of fun to go back and forth. Here are my top 3 takeaways from the discussion. First of all, nobody seems thrilled about the Trump versus Biden rematch. Even the Trump and Biden supporters, although I could say like Phillips seems pretty enthusiastic about Biden. Clinton, I think, was like, hey, I don't like any of these people, but Trump is the enemy of my enemy kind of thing. So a good amount of point number 1 is like some frustration with the options from at least the front runners, let's call them. Number 2 is you see Philip, the Biden supporter, really trying to make the case for Biden, pointing out the policy differences. And a lot of the third party people are just kind of frustrated and, not really in a position to kind of maybe even be open to Biden, because they're just like, no, either like they didn't like the way the primaries were run, or they've been frustrated with both parties for a long time, or they're really frustrated about the Gaza stuff. The other thing that came to mind was like the RFK kind of story is most interesting as like maybe like the middle finger to the two-party system. Like, I don't know if RFK has a lot of policies where everybody's like super fired up. Maybe his meta policy is like, I'm not one of these two. The other takeaway is like, I think Jill Stein has a very clear lane to advocate stopping military aid to Israel. That's a pretty, that's like ceasefire to a whole nother level. Marianne Williamson and Stein kind of, there seemed to be some overlap there, which is understandable. I think they probably share a lot of policy views. Like that would be an interesting ticket. Kind of refreshing in a lot of ways. But and then you've got Nick on the libertarian side, arguing for arguing for less kind of government intrusion. So overall, fun discussion. A little sad that the numbers are going to be Trump versus Biden. Like those are the two. And I thought like maybe the most interesting thing from all the third party candidates was like, look, if you feel like the system is totally messed up and that there aren't that many differences between the two, then you could make the case that, you know, you should vote for one of these third party candidates just to send a message. I'm not there yet personally. Personally, I do feel like Trump is just next level terrible. So I don't think I can go there if I feel like Biden has like a shot to win. But I will say if Biden has like major missteps and he has the opposite of what happened in the State of the Union, he has some like really disastrous appearances, then maybe I might kind of want to send a message, but I don't think I'm ready to. I think I'd like to stick with the Democratic Party until Biden shows me that he can't win, and at which point I'll just be like, okay, well then screw it. I might as well kind of make my voice heard that I'm not really happy with the whole primary system and these two parties. But yeah, let me know in the description, in the comments below, who you liked. And let me also take a moment to thank the people that keep this channel going. Like this channel is over 5 years old now. And I keep making these streams partly because I know that our members value it. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to click the join link, it goes to the streaming software costs, the podcast hosting fees. So if you like audio podcasts, go search for Nerds for Humanity. You can listen to it in the car. And then I recently was able to acquire this new microphone. Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Tom Leung. So I got this new microphone that has been partly paid for by membership, YouTube member kind of contributions. So our biggest supporter is Soldier One. So thank you, Soldier One. He is our highest level supporter. Then at the next level, our vice president level, we have Kristen Slevin and Bike. Kristen's been supporting the channel for 50 months. I think she might be one of the longest standing supporters. And then hardcore, you got Gene, David, DK, Jackalego, Mr. History, Mona, Vaughn, Yang, Dean, Galessa, John, Dana, Jason, Daniel, Mickey, Yoda, Jackson, Unkiyu, and Barbara. And then at the verified level, I will scroll through them. The first ones are the oldest, longest supporting members. And as I scroll down, you get younger and younger members. So thank you to all of the verified. Verified only costs $1.99 a month. So super affordable. You can cancel anytime and it helps us keep this channel going. Now, if you haven't been able to click the join button and money's a little tight, or you'd rather spend your money on other things, I respect that. The next best thing you can do is like it and share it out so that more people can discover this conversation. So yeah, I'm kind of torn on what I should do. I was supporting Phillips before. He dropped out. I like Williamson, but I'm not sure there's a path to get the nomination. I think my dream scenario is Biden changes his mind, and then we have like maybe Whitmer Warnock combo or Whitmer Booker. But if Biden can keep it together, maybe he will remain the nominee and eke out a victory. I don't know how he's going to do in the debates, though. That's why I'd like to see Biden do a town hall before the convention, or at least like a long sit-down interview. So something where he doesn't have the teleprompter, just to give us that extra confirmation that like he's good to go. It's like, sometimes you take your car to the mechanic before a big road trip. Like, I wouldn't mind just like another once over. I think the State of the Union was a good night for Biden. But I would love to see a little more. So, any rate, have a great weekend. Bye, nerds. Like, share, and subscribe.